When a movement built on fierce loyalty begins to question its leader, the fault lines of political identity shift. Donald Trump's MAGA, Make America Great Again, coalition was once defined by its unwavering support and willingness to accept the man at the top without reservation. But today, a new phenomenon is emerging. Prominent MAGA influencers, commentators, and activists are beginning to break from that mold, not necessarily in full rebellion, but in open critique. The cracks are no longer hidden. Whether it's foreign policy entanglements, the economy, or immigration promises, the tensions are showing. In this video, I will trace how this internal dissent has grown, who the voices are, what issues are driving it, how it may affect Trump and the movement, and what lies ahead. Simply put, MAGA turns on Trump, and the rebellion has begun. The rise of unquestioning support. From 2016 onward, Trump's rise represented more than just another Republican candidacy. It symbolized a populist insurgency, one that rejected the conservative establishment and pledged loyalty to a leader promising radical change. The MAGA coalition encompassed working-class whites, evangelical Christians, veterans, and new media provocateurs. Key to that movement was the sense of belonging. You were part of us against them. And loyalty was the currency. Influencers like Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens helped amplify the message, promote the movement, and enforce discipline among supporters. In those days, the expectation was simple: support Trump, amplify his brand, never question his decisions. Dissent was seen as disloyalty. That kind of unity felt powerful, and for a time it was. But the foundations were brittle. A political movement rooted in personality and loyalty is vulnerable when supporters start asking why instead of just who. The first cracks: policy divergences and blind support. The first fractures in any coalition often come not from explosive confrontation, but from quietly unmet expectations. For the MAGA movement, those expectations were many: immigration reform, trade rebalancing, an America First foreign policy, strong economic growth. When those goals began to diverge or appear unfulfilled, the pressure built. One flashpoint has been foreign policy. The traditional MAGA slogan was America First, which many interpreted as less foreign entanglement, less spending abroad, fewer endless wars. Yet, at times, Trump and his administration appeared to step into complex international commitments. For example, critics within the movement pointed to U.S. support for Israel and potential military escalation with Iran as contrary to America First. As one influencer put it, "We hear about all this money going to Ukraine and Israel, and we should ask ourselves, does this actually serve the vital interests of the American people? Or is this serving the interests of other nations?" When the movement's core promises appear compromised, loyalty begins to be conditioned. Influencers, platforms, and the new power brokers. In the MAGA ecosystem, influencers aren't just amplifiers. They are agenda setters and barometers of sentiment. Figures like Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Steve Bannon hold wide platforms. When they shift tone, it signals broader movement shifts. For instance, Tucker Carlson has publicly challenged Trump's Israel policy, accusing him of being complicit in Israel's attack on Iran, and warning that U.S. funding and weapons support place Washington at the center of conflict. Candace Owens has questioned Trump's lack of responsiveness to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, describing Israel's actions toward children and women as a Holocaust being committed. These critiques reflect more than policy disagreement. They reflect branding, audience recalibration, and repositioning of influence in a changing environment. For the movement's leader, losing or alienating these influencer channels undermines mobilization, messaging cohesion, and grassroots energy. The Israel question and foreign policy friction. One of the most acute sources of dissent has centered on U.S. support for Israel. a historically bipartisan U.S. foreign policy position, but one increasingly at odds with the America First wing of MAGA. Multiple sources report that Trump himself warned a Jewish donor, "My people are starting to hate Israel." Critics within MAGA highlight the contradiction. If U.S. priorities are domestic jobs, borders, economy, then why funnel billions into foreign wars or massive aid packages? For example, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a prominent MAGA figure, referred to the Gaza conflict as genocide and questioned why U.S. taxpayers should fund it. Another example, Representative Thomas Massie tweeted, "Israel doesn't need U.S. taxpayers' money for defense if it already has enough to start offensive wars." This is not simply a disagreement over foreign policy. It challenges the identity of the movement. Should MAGA mean automatic alignment with Israel, or should it mean first defending American interests? This question reveals a fracture in what MAGA stands for. Immigration, economy, and the demand for accountability. Beyond foreign policy, other promises loom large. Trump's campaign message included crackdowns on illegal immigration, renegotiation of trade deals, and restoring manufacturing jobs. However, some in MAGA now say that the follow-through has been lacking. Comedian and media personality Theo Von voiced this frustration. "I thought this was supposed to be America first, and it feels like we're just working only for Israel." Critics argue, if the economy isn't delivering for working-class voters, if immigration remains unresolved, and if foreign spending continues, then the original contract is broken. Influencers and commentators are less willing to accept, "Well, it's complicated," as an answer. They want measurable results. In short, loyalty is no longer blind. It must come with results. And when accountability is lacking, criticism grows louder. What this means for Trump and the movement. What emerges from this internal dissent is risk, for both the leader and the movement. For Trump, when key influencers and grassroots voices begin publicly questioning him, two things happen. First, the messaging machine weakens. Second, it opens the door for challengers within the movement to define a new direction. If a significant faction of MAGA believes the leader is veering off course, they may stop playing along. For the movement, identity risk. MAGA must decide whether it remains strictly a Trump-centric vehicle or evolves into a broader America First movement with its own checks and balances. The former option preserves loyalty but risks stagnation. The latter offers reinvention but risks internal war. In both cases, the internal rebellion is a warning sign. Even if it doesn't lead to immediate collapse, it indicates turbulence ahead. Looking ahead, rebellion becomes redefinition. So what comes next? There are two broad paths. Path A, Trump and the MAGA leadership acknowledge the dissent, recalibrate policy or messaging, perhaps by emphasizing tangible economic gains, limiting foreign entanglements, or engaging critics meaningfully. That would inject new vitality into the movement. Path B, Trump doubles down on loyalty, dismisses criticism, and pushes forward without compromise. In that scenario, the divide could deepen, leading to splintering alternative movements or a dilution of the MAGA brand. Influencers may become the vanguard of a post-Trump MAGA, one that emphasizes principle over personality. For example, Jackson Hinkle, a self-described MAGA communist, has married anti-war and anti-Israel rhetoric with pro-Trump branding, illustrating the ideological unpredictability at the movement's fringes. Ultimately, the rebellion is not just about rejecting Trump. It's about MAGA refusing to accept a movement where loyalty overwhelms policy. The question ahead, will MAGA redefine itself on its own terms, or will it remain tethered to a personality even as the base moves on? Movements are sustained by belief, but they survive only by alignment between leader and base. When that alignment falters, the movement cannot simply rely on past momentum. The moment when supporters begin asking why, instead of just who, is historic. For MAGA, that moment is now. Influencers and grassroots voices are no longer silent. They are speaking. The rebellion has begun. Not as a loud coup, but as a slow unraveling of unquestioned support. Whether it becomes a reinvention or a rupture remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. The MAGA of tomorrow will not look exactly like the MAGA of yesterday. And for both Trump and his movement, the time to listen is now.